Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Just a reminder, we flipped over to Bereshis for the Rosh Hashanah laning. So it's in Sefer Bereshis, it's chapter 21, verse 1. Chapter 21, verse 1. It's the opening pasuk of the laning. V'Hashem pakad Sarah kasher amar. God remembered Sarah as he said he would. Vayas Hashem l'Sarah kasher diber. And God did for Sarah as he said, and Sarah merited to have the child Yitzchak. One of the reasons that we lay this on Rosh Hashanah is we're taught that she conceived on Rosh Hashanah. Now, just for the record, it's always good when jumping into something in the Chumash to know what the context is. The immediately preceding story has to do with Sarah and Avimelech. This is a problem that came up for Avram and Sarah in different places that they lived, that they journeyed to, that Sarah was a very attractive woman, and Avimelech took her to be his wife, and he was stricken with a serious illness, and it became clear that the reason he had been stricken with the illness was because Sarah was a married woman, and Avimelech lets Sarah go, and Avimelech asks Avram to daven for him, that Hashem should heal Avimelech. And if you look in chapter 20, verse 17, we don't lean this on Rosh Hashanah, but just for context, Vayspalel Avraham Elu Elokim, Avram daven to Hashem, Vayirpo Elokim es Avimelech v'sishto v'amosav v'yiledu. And God cured Avimelech, his wife, maidservants, and they gave birth. Okay. Rashi on Pasuk Aleph. V'Hashem pakad Sarah. Samach Parsha Zu Lakan. The Torah adjoined the story of Avimelech to the conception of Yitzchak. Lamedcha to teach. Shekol ha'mevakish rachim al chaveiro v'utzarich l'oso davar hu nene tchila. That if one davens for compassion for another person, and they both need the same thing, but I daven not only for myself, but I daven for you, then the fact that I daven for you is a great merit that I should be answered. Part of the primary thrust of Avimelech's sickness was his reproductive organ was damaged through the illness. So now all of a sudden he's able to have children. So Avram davened that Avimelech should be able to have a child. So it says in the pasuk that Avram davened for Avimelech, samachle, so it's jointed. V'Hashem pakad Sarah. That God remembered Sarah. Shepakad kfar kodem sheripos Avimelech. That even before Avimelech was healed, Sarah had been remembered and indeed conceived. That's a very famous idea. There are all kinds of davening groups for all kinds of causes that are built around this. People of similar needs, people of different needs, matching people of needs. It's a very powerful idea. It's certainly worthwhile to think about in this time of year. That if I daven for someone else, it's a great schus that I should be answered for my needs. Let's go to Orach Chaim. Orach Chaim and Pasuk Aleph. Hashem pakad kasher amar perish. Lo letzad shispal Avimelech umitam kol hamispal chavero v'zu lazeh lo yanifgad. So the Orach Chaim has a very interesting perspective that goes against the medrash that Rashi says. He says, you know what it's saying in the pasuk? God remembered Sarah like he said he would. That's really what it says in the pasuk. Why does it say like he said he would? The Orach Chaim says because it's to teach you that the reason that Sarah was remembered was not because of the story of Avram and Avimelech. That's a very nice story, very inspiring, but that's not why Sarah was remembered. The reason why Sarah was remembered because God told Avram that he would bless Sarah with a child. So the Orach Chaim says that's what the pasuk is teaching you. Ode, another possibility. Li'olam ki tfilaso al Avimelech udavar hamamid lifkidas Sarah. The Orach Chaim says like this. He says, look, the Avram's prayers for Avimelech caused that Sarah should be remembered. Hashem had assured Avram he would give him a child. Hashem mitzvah really fascinating idea from the Orach Chaim. The Orach Chaim says, you know what maybe the pshat is? maybe the pshat is that Sarah was remembered with a child because of Avram's kindness to Avimelech. But the reason why God orchestrated the scenario that Avimelech needed Avram's kindness was so that when Avram would do this act of kindness, this would be a merit to bring about a child for Sarah. Very interesting. So that it's true, this was in the works anyway. It's true that the child came in the merit of Avram's kindness. But Avimelech didn't have to need Avram's kindness. Avimelech could have been healed on his own. Avimelech gave back Sarah after all. So why did God make it that Avimelech still needed Avram's prayers? Because God wanted to give Avram and Sarah this additional opportunity for merit. And he just says, I want to get moving with the rest of the psukim here, but he says an amazing thing. This is not the first story where there's a monarch who tries to take Sarah and God intervenes in some way. But this is the first time that someone needed Avram to pray for them. Why? And God says, or Chaim says, because of this issue. Because now is the time. Now is the time for Sarah to have a child. But there needed to be a mitzvah opportunity. Very interesting way of thinking about things. Okay, let's move on to verse 6. Okay, actually, let's start with verse 4. Vayomer Avraham Yitzchak beno ben shmonas yamim. Avram circumcised Yitzchak, his son, 8 days old, Kashir Tzivo, so Kim, like God commanded him. This is the first 8-day-old bris in Klal Yisrael, right? Avram's household, Yishmael, have all received brisim, but they received brisim as adults. But now Yitzchak is born after this whole bris concept was introduced. Doesn't say in the pasuk if they served bagels or not, but the bris was on the 8th day. Verse 5, Avraham ben Ma'as Shana, Avram was 100 years old when Yitzchak was born. Verse 6, Vatomer Sarah, and Sarah said, Tzchok asali elokim. God has made for me a reason for laughter. Kol hashomea yitzachak li. Everyone who hears will laugh for me. This is, of course, a very famous pasuk. The Sforno has an interesting twist on this pasuk. This is certainly related to his name being Yitzchak. Look at the Sforno on pasuk Vav. Tzchok asali elokim. Afal pi sheyesh tsar mila latino. It's scary. Person has a baby, and they're having the baby be circumcised. It's never happened before, by the way. You think of the pain, and the child can't decide for themselves. Kel yisparach nasan simcha belibi. Even though there's reason for Sarah to be distressed, God has brought joy into my heart. Lefichach kolash, because this is such a remarkable event for us. Lefichach, that we had this child. Kolash shemei yitzachak li, anyone who hears will laugh for me. V'yismach ba'adi, and will be very happy for me. V'lo yidag b'shvil tzara mila, and won't be distressed by the pain of the circumcision. Just an interesting, that was an interesting shot. Okay. Verse 8. Vayidala yelad v'yigomal. The baby got older, the baby was weaned. Vayas Avraham b'shtei gadol b'yom higamel es Yitzchak. Avram made a big party on the day of Yitzchak's weaning. Verse 9. Vatera Sarah es ben Hagara mitzris asher yolda le'Avraham mitzachek. Sarah saw the son of Hagar, who had bore the son to Avraham. Literally, mitzachek means laughing. And there was something about the fact that he was laughing that very much bothered Sarah. Verse 10, Vatomer li Avraham, gareish v'amoazos v'yespena. Sarah said to Avram, expel this maidservant and her son, kilo yirash ben amoazos im b'ni im Yitzchak, because the son of a maidservant should not inherit along with my son Yitzchak. Seems to be pretty heavy that he was laughing, and that so he gets expelled from the house. Ramban on pasuk tes, mitzachek, lashon avodah zarah. He starts off by citing Rashi. Rashi says that this language of laughter is a language of idol worship. Lashon ritzicha, it's a language of murder. Lashon gilui arayos, it's a language of illicit sexual relations. Meiriv im Yitzchak ala Yerusha, that Yishmael argued with Yitzchak regarding the inheritance. V'yomer ani b'chor v'yoresh pishnayim. Yishmael said, look here, I'm the older child. I'm the firstborn. I should get a double portion. The Yotzim Lasada, they went out to the field. V'noto kashto. Yishmael took his arrow. Vayora bochitzim. And he started, took his bow, and he started shooting arrows at Yitzchak. So Rashi says a lot. Rashi says that mitzachek in various places a language of extreme immorality. And so Rashi says the immorality here was he was like in a playful way trying to see if he would kill Yitzchak or scare Yitzchak that he was going to kill him. And it's also implied because it's implied that there was some argument or some issue going on or some resentment going on because Sarah, when she's talking to Avram, says he's not going to inherit with Yitzchak. Who's talking about inheritance? Well, the Medrash would say that they were talking about inheritance. Yishmael was talking about inheritance. Okay, so now, according to Rashi, you can certainly understand why Sarah says, get rid of this guy. The Afkana, Rav Kosav HaMachlokos Kulam. The Ramban says, my gosh, he put all these different opinions into one basket. There's not one opinion that says all these things. Tanam said in the Brisa, Reb Shimon ben Elazar, Dal Dvar, Rabbi Akiva Dorish, Any Dorish Kamoso, Venirin Dvar, Mitzvara. Shimon ben Elazar said, I don't agree with Rabbi Akiva. Dorish Rabbi Akiva, Vatera Saratz ben Agar Mitzvah Sheyot Alav Ram Mitzachek, Ein Tzchok El Lashon Avodah Zarah. Rabbi Akiva said the language of laughter connotes different types of immoral activities. Vani Omer Chas V'Shom Shei B'Beiso Shel Tzadik Kach. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, heaven forbid that such things will be going on in the house of the great Avram Avinu. Efshar B'Shekasabo Ki Dativ L'Manash Yitzaves Banavis B'So Yeh B'Beiso Avodah Zarah B'Yilrais Shvichus Damim. So Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, God says about Avraham in the context of Sodom, I know about him that he'll, give appropriate instruction to his children after him. So this person that we're told God knows he's going to do everything right. There's like rampant sin going on in his house. Reb Shimon ben Elazar says, no, it's a language of inheritance. When everyone was so happy when Yitzchak was born, Amar Lam Yishmael showed him. Yishmael said, what are you so excited about, you fools? I'm the firstborn, I'm going to take double. So that's the machlokas. So one opinion says he was doing all these sins. One opinion says he was saying that he's going to be the primary heir to Avram. So the Ramban says, I don't know why Rashi put it all together. My gosh, they were having an argument about inheritance. This must have been years after, Yitzchak was weaned and Yishmael was. So how later on is Hagar carrying him on her shoulder? How does this all work? Skipping ahead a few lines. The Ramban says, I think the pshat is this was happening on the day that Yitzchak was weaned. Malik al Yitzchak oala mishteh hagaron. Sarah saw Yishmael mocking Yitzchak or the celebration. The Torah refers to him as the child of Hagar. It didn't say that she saw Yishmael laughing, it said the child of Hagar. Sarah's language to Avram is expel this maidservant and her son. It's not about the maidservant, but it's about the son. Veini rotza raksha tagarish osoma iti v'liyirash benechsecha klal im b'ni shehu ben Gvira. So the Ramban says it's not that Yishmael was having a conversation with Yitzchak. It's not that Yishmael was doing anything overt. It's that Yishmael was mocking Yitzchak, and Sarah couldn't get over it because Sarah says, I don't understand. His mother's your maidservant. It's true he's your biological son, but his mother's your maidservant. He's acting like he's the big mocker here. And that's not acceptable because my child has to be your heir. And that's why she says we need to expel him because he doesn't understand his place in the context. The famous next part of the story, which we're not going to see now, is that they are expelled and Yishmael's about to die in the desert. and then God saves him. And the famous phrase people talk about a lot on Rosh Hashanah at this time of year is God saved the boy Basher Sham, where he was there. Famous medrash that the Malachim said, let him die. His descendants are going to cause so many problems for the Jewish people. And God said, for who he is right now, he deserves to live. And that's a perspective that we have when we come to God in judgment, that we know we're flawed, but we're coming right now. We're trying to have a good attitude right now. So we discussed that opening pasuk of God remembering Sarah. We discussed Rashi and the Orach Chaim. Is it connected to Avimelech's illness and not connected to Avimelech's illness? We discussed the Sforno regarding the joy of Sarah despite the bris of her son, or at the bris of her son, and we discussed Rashi and the Ramban regarding why Sarah wanted to expel Yishmael.